भगवान श्री योगी रामसूरतकुमार की
जय।
सर्वं
योगी रामसूरतकुमारार्पणमस्तु।
Every day we have been seeing some facets of this diamond, the crown jewel among the humans, Bhagwan Shri Yogi Ramsuratkumar. He has given us a very powerful, gracious name without which we cannot even breathe. He has entered and enriched the lives of many, many, many thousands of people. And we see how he stands by us in the times of difficulties, in our sorrows and joys. His name has become our constant companion, and yet when he gives us an opportunity to sing together with other people, it has its special effect. The grace that arises from this mass prayer or mass singing is something exceptional. We owe a deep debt of gratitude to Bhagwan for giving us this opportunity. We have been seeing some experiences of Sri Ganesanji of Ramanashramam. He has written very beautifully, describing many experiences of his. And whenever he came here to the ashram, he shared some with me also, with some of us here. It's always delightful to listen to him. Now here is one more story. The story of Bhagwan's glory. A very interesting incident which is at once interesting and instructive. Once the music director, Sri Ilaiyaraja, had some excellent apples. In Chennai, these apples had come from Kashmir. They were fresh and excellent. So the first thought that came to him was to rush to Tiruvannamalai to offer it to Bhagwan Yogi Ramsuratkumar. Just see how he felt. And then he came with a basket to Ramanashram and requested Ganesanji to accompany him. So they came very early morning. They went off to Bhagwan Sannidhi Street House early morning itself. Bhagwan received them well, accepted graciously the basket of those excellent apples from Kashmir. He kept them only half an hour, blessed them nicely, and then he left them. He gave two apples to each of them, saying, this beggar leaves you now. Shri Ganesana was at the time the president of the ashram, but Ramana ashram, he was running it. So Bhagwan said, Ganesha here will have work in the office. So this beggar leaves you people. So they left. When they left, it was 7:30. They spent only half an hour with him. And then Ganesana came back to Ramana ashram. He was sitting in the office with both the apples on his table. They looked very fresh and beautiful. Now, around after 7:30, Anuradha Amma, she had in those days, she was going round the mountain every day. And she would go round with somebody with her, and that day Sundari Amma accompanied her. And when they would come to the town, they would go to Arunachaleshwara Mandir, and many of the days they would also visit Bhagwan to take his blessings. So that day also, they had gone to Arunachaleshwara Mandir and then came to Sannidhi Street House. Of course, Bhagwan received them, made them sit there for a little while, blessed them nicely, and then gave one banana to each of them. So now, from there, she walked over to Ramana ashram. She went to the shrine, and after her prostrations there, she entered the office. It was somewhere between 7:30 and 8 o'clock. When she entered, the first thing that she saw was those 2 apples, the fresh ones from Kashmir. And when she looked at him, Ganesana offered to say, it's from Yogi ji, and one of them is meant for you. Somehow, Anuradha Amma, when she saw those apples, and she remembered Bhagwan gave her only one banana that morning. They had walked all the way, 14 kilometers round the mountain. They had gone to the temple and promptly presented themselves at the doorstep of Sri Yogi ji. And then he gave only one banana. And just a little earlier, these 2 people had gone there, and he gave two fresh apples from Kashmir. She got angry. And then she said, look, you people didn't go anywhere. You simply straight away went to his place, and he gave 2 apples to each of you. Ilaiyaraja is popular. He's a popular music director in Tamil Nadu, and you are the grandnephew of Raman Maharishi, and what is more, you are running this ashram, you are the president of the ashram. So he gave, both of you are very important, he gave both of you apples. And minutes after we had gone there, after walking so long, all he could give us was only banana. Even while she was saying this, she was asking, is it fair? How can he do this? How is it fair? And Ganesana warned her. He said, Amma, beware. Swami is listening to you. Swami is everywhere. He must be listening to you. So do not say all this. It's not fair to say that. Swami knows what to give. It's not fair to attack him like this. And it's one of them is meant for you. But she refused to accept it. She went over to her place. She has a residence just opposite Ramanashram, and it has been named Savitri. And then usually and it has been named Savitri. And then usually Ganesana would come to the office of Ramanashram at 9 o'clock and start the work. Half an hour later, 9:30, Anuradha Amma, she was assisting him in the office work. She would enter the office at 9:30. So that day, after she went back home, she got ready to come to the office, and when she entered the office of Ramanashram, she had a story to tell him. She said with a smile and also apologetically, you know what happened? At 8 o'clock, LIC Jayaraman, who was the attendant at that time, who would go often to Bhagwan's place and do some service there, he came and knocked at the door. It was 8 o'clock. And then as soon as he opened, he was in a hurry. He said, as usual, I went to Swami today. When I prostrated, he dumped this apple into my hand and said, immediately before going to the office, you must go to Anuradha's place and hand it over to her. Give it to her in hand and say, this beggar has sent it. And then Jayaraman said, look, I'm in a hurry, I have to rush to the office, I'm taking leave. So she was very happy that she got an apple, and she also knew that Bhagwan knew. Bhagwan knew every bit of conversation that they had in the morning. When she said that, Ganesana said, didn't I tell you? Swami is everywhere. He was listening, he is listening to everything. So when you talked about him, he was listening to you. And then in the evening, he said, we have to go to Swami now. He has sent all the way an apple for you. Should we not go and thank him? Come, let's go. And Anuradha's sisters also had come. So all of them together went over to Bhagwan's place. This afternoon darshan, 4 o'clock. Bhagwan looked very stern. He received them. He made Anuradha and his sisters sit in a row in that small veranda opposite to his seat. But he did not ask Ganesana to sit. Instead, he said, Tambi. Tambi means literally brother, but it is addressed in such a way like, oh boy. You know, like you would address a small boy or an attendant. He called Ganesha. Usually, Bhagwan would call him Ganesha. And this time, he called him, my boy, this beggar is giving you some work. You please go to the gate and allow people. There was already a crowd there. So Bhagwan said, you can allow people one by one. In those days, when he was giving darshan, he was doing this one by one spiritual ministry. Ganesana was very happy. You see, he was the president, he was running an ashram, and he was also the grandnephew of Raman Maharishi. But Bhagwan called him, my boy, go and attend to the gate. So he gave him the job of gatekeeping. And Ganesana, for his part, accepted it very happily because he was doing some service to Swami. What a great fortune it was for him. Very happily, he called those people one by one. All those people, some of them used to go to Ramanashram also. So all those people saw how the president of Ramanashram was serving Bhagwan as a gatekeeper. Ganesana did not mind at all. He was only too happy to serve Bhagwan. In the meantime, Anuradha's sisters had taken plantains to offer to Bhagwan. So when they offered, Bhagwan gave one plantain to Anuradha, one plantain to Anuradha, one to her sisters also, but he did not give anything to Shri Ganesha. And also Bhagwan said, you eat it up now, immediately. So they ate up, and then the peels, banana peels, they were holding in their hands. Now Bhagwan, leela continued. He said, my boy, he was not calling him Ganesha, come here, you collect all these banana peels and throw them out. And again, Ganesha was only too happy to do the service for Bhagwan. So very happily, he took away those peels, banana peels, collected them, and he was about to throw it. Standing there at the doorstep, he was going to throw it out. When he was about to do that, Bhagwan said, my boy, don't throw it like this. You have to go out on the road and find the dustbin of the municipality and throw this banana peels into that. And again, in front of all those people, just imagine Ganesana running with all those banana peels in his hand and finding a dustbin and throwing them into it. Now by then, Anuradha realized that Swami was playing a leela. To make her, he looked very stern, no nonsense. And he was using Ganesha as an errand boy. And Anuradha, of course, she knew instantly the play that he was playing, and she kept asking him for pardon inside. Please forgive me. I should not have spoken like that. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. And the minute she asked for forgiveness, Bhagwan's countenance changed. Now for the first time, he smiled. And what's more, he called out to Shri Ganesana, Ganesha, come here, Ganesha. And then, that you have done a good job for this beggar. So when Ganesana was prostrating, Bhagwan gave him 4 pats on his back, a very loud, sound blessing. Ganesana writes, they were sound blessings for him. He gave loud pats on his back, saying that he had done a good job. And Anuradha also immediately got up, and she also prostrated. She also received quite loud pats on her back. They were very happy finally that things were cleared, and they knew that Bhagwan could never be partial. So what an interesting and instructive episode it is. Just see how Bhagwan, he knew the talk that was going on in Ramanashram office, And immediately he took measures. He took steps to compensate for what she was feeling. He sent an apple immediately all the way from his place to Anuradha Amma's house. And now again he played the leela so that everybody understood. Imagine Shri Ganesanji, the president of Ramanashram, doing errands for Bhagwan and collecting the banana at the peak of it, collecting banana peels from everybody and running in the streets to throw it into the dustbin. Ganesanji did in all humility. Here, it was not long before Anuradha was not familiar with Bhagwan in those days. She was not used to his ways. It takes quite some time for everyone. She is a representative of all of us, because we are also likely to mistake Bhagwan. We have a little intelligence, a little brain, which has not been put to much use, in the sense we may not have depth or the purity of heart to interpret everything, to give any high interpretation. One could never understand why a Mahatma does certain thing and why he does not do certain other things. They would never explain to people. Bhagwan never explained his words or his actions. It was left to the devotees to make of it what they would. And Bhagwan had said to us, the higher the interpretation that you put upon any happening, the closer you are to God. So it's not only, it's an instruction not only to Anuradha Amma, it is to all of us. We should not interpret anybody's action. We should not. Yesterday we saw how the Sufi training was. That as soon as they heard something from somebody, or as soon as they saw something, they should not allow themselves to question one thing, and the other one was not jump to conclusions. But we are doing it all the time. Our mind, our brain is interpreting all that is happening. When you see a person, oh, she's fair, oh, she's beautiful, no, she's ugly, she's good, she's bad. All the time, our mind is sitting in judgment on people and happenings and situations. It doesn't wait to ask you. It makes its own interpretation. And that would only depend upon our mindset and our capacity to understand anything at all. So thanks to Anuradha Amma, we also learned this lesson, not to jump to conclusions, because whatever a Mahatma, whatever a great soul, a great master does, it has its own purpose and reasons, far removed from what we think. They give to each person what is necessary for them. Like a doctor gives a certain pill to someone with a stomachache, and someone else with fever, he gives something else. A Mahatma also does that. Now this reminds me of another incident which happened to me. When I was going to Sannidhi Street House for his Darshan, It happened one day that the gate boy, Sashi, was missing. And I found out that he had gone to attend some classes, tuition classes, because the examination was approaching. And then Bhagwan was just sitting there. There was a crowd outside. Someone had to keep the gate. Someone had to regulate the crowd. And Sashi was missing. So naturally, I was a little worried and I was thinking, how could Bhagwan do this job? He was seated there to bless people. How would he do this? And then I was very worried. And suddenly Bhagwan, I was also very humble. I was thinking, I was waiting to see how Bhagwan would handle the whole situation. All the time feeling, why would Sashi do this? It is a great service, a great fortune to serve Bhagwan. Even the smallest things. What a fortune it is. Why would he leave this and go to some tuition classes? It was unthinkable for me. So here I was thinking and very worried. And Bhagwan, suddenly he looked at me and smiled and said, Devaki, you go, attend to the gate. You be there and allow people one by one. I did not think that he would ask me to do it. I jumped up in joy. It was a great, great, great fortune, a great blessing for me that Bhagwan should choose me to serve at the gate. I felt very proud. And then I started to regulate them, was sending each one inside. And very, very happy when the job was over at 12 o'clock when he left me with lots of fruits. And the next day, when I had gone for his darshan, the same thing repeated. In the sense, Sashi was missing, he had gone to attend classes. Now this time, when I heard that he had gone to some tuition classes, I got angry with him. Anger is a sign of ego. You have no business to get angry with anybody. Each one has his own reasons which are important to them. You cannot sit in judgment and pass verdict. And here I was doing it. And today, this particular day, it was not humility. The previous day, the bhava was very different. I was very humble, very genuinely worried, and I didn't even think for a moment that he would ask me to do it. But today, I assumed it, I took it for granted that, okay, Bhagwan would ask me to attend, to see to the gate. Okay, I would do it. I had to go to Salem 2 days after. And here I was calculating very fast. Okay, as long as I'm here, I would be able to do this. But then 2 days after I had to go to Salem. And then who would do it? Because this boy was going to attend for 1 week because the examination was approaching. So here, just see the run of thoughts. I was just simply carried away. And here I was thinking, and I took it for granted. Bhagwan was going to ask me to see to the gate. But then Bhagwan was giving me glances, very embarrassing ones, and suddenly felt a warning inside. The way he's looking at me, I felt very uneasy. And I knew instantly he did not approve of my thoughts. All the same, I was just waiting for him to tell me to go to the gate. But suddenly he, in one jump, he got up, walked over to the gate, opened it, and then sat on the first step, sat on the top step, and started to call those people one by one. I felt terrible. I knew I had invited it. By my attitude, I was criticizing Sashi for going to his classes, and I assumed that he was going to ask me to do the job. And I was worried, what would he do without me after 2 days? As though I was looking after everything until then. He knew our thoughts and he reacted to them in the way he should in order to teach us, in order to cut us to size, to put us in place, which is a great blessing because it meant our spiritual growth. So that day I understood that Bhagwan had to do the things the way he wanted. It reminded me of this Vamana Avatar. The little boy came and asked for 3 feet land from Mahabali Chakravarti, the emperor. He was a Rakshasa. Though he was very devoted to Narayana, he had Asuric tendencies. Because he was in the lineage of Rakshasa and he was ruling the whole world as an emperor. And the Devas were frightened that he would gain control over their world also. And so they went and reported to Narayana, Mahavishnu, asking him, begging him to do something about it. Mahabali was ruling the entire world. His next attack would be the Devaloka, the world of Devas. Vamana, he came as a little boy with little beautiful lotus feet. Those small feet of a child. And then he begged the king, Mahabali, the emperor, for something. When Mahabali, delighted at the look of this boy, so beautiful, so pure, and so small, Vamana said, I want only 3 feet land. Mahabali was surprised because he was so small. His feet were small. Mahabali was surprised because he was so small. His feet were small. And 3 feet land. Why would he ask this? He was trying to tempt this little boy to ask for more. He was tempting. But Vamana said firmly, I want only 3 feet, my own feet. 3 foot land. Please give me only 3 foot land. That's enough for me. And then, when Mahabali, the emperor, granted it, Vamana grew in size. He took Vishwarupa. He occupied the whole space from the sky to the ground. You can imagine the size of his foot. With 1 foot, he had the whole world. He wound up the whole world. With another foot, he covered all those other worlds. And there was no land at all left for his 3rd foot. He set his foot. Then the emperor, in all humility, he understood it was Mahavishnu who had come down in the form of Vamana. He was also a devotee. So immediately he realized that Bhagwan himself had come and all his ego was gone. He immediately knelt before Vamana, bent his head and said, Swami, you put your 3rd foot. You want the 3rd foot land? Put it on my head. So Bhagwan Vamana put one of his feet on the head of Mahabali and pressed him down into the underworld. Pathala Loka, they call it. The world inside the earth. So that is how the ego of the emperor was brought to control. Because he was planning to take over the world of devas. But Bhagwan Vamana put him down into the netherworld. Like that, whenever our ego gets the better of us, the great masters would take up some measure or the other to cut us to size. Because after all, we go take refuge at their feet only to give up this ego. But what we do instead, all the time, we allow this ego to function so well